We use them every single day. But have you ever really stopped and thought about what AM and PM actually mean? We're about to decode one of the most common and surprisingly fascinating parts of our everyday lives, right? So what do they actually stand for? It seems like such a simple question, but trust me, the answer unlocks this incredible story about astronomy, ancient engineering, and even a weird little paradox that affects everything from your work schedule to, and I'm not kidding, life or death situations. All right, so to figure out what we're actually saying when we talk about AM and PM, we gotta go back to two pretty simple Latin phrases. Turns out they're the foundation of our entire day. Okay, first up, we've got AM. This stands for Meridiem. And in Latin, that's just a fancy way of saying before midday. Super straightforward, right? It's that whole period that kicks off right after midnight and takes us all the way up to noon. And of course, its partner is PM, which stands for post-meridiem, or you guessed it, after midday. This is the part of the day that begins the very instant, afternoon, and carries us all the way to midnight. Simple enough, but what exactly is this midday that everything seems to revolve around? The key to this whole thing is the meridian. Just picture an imaginary line, okay? It runs from the North Pole all the way to the South Pole, passing right over your head. When the sun crosses that line, bam! That's its absolute highest point in the sky for the day. That exact moment is what the Romans called meridius, midday, and it is the pivot point for our entire system of time. So how did we get from just, watching the sun in the sky to glancing at our phones? Well, this whole idea went on a wild 3,500-year journey to get where it is today. Our story really kicks off around 1500 BCE with the Egyptians. They were the first to split both the day and the night into 12 periods. The Romans later adopted this, but get this, their hours actually changed length depending on the season. It wasn't until the 14th century that mechanical clocks showed up. And even then, the 12-hour dial we all know and love didn't become the standard for another couple hundred years. And what's so cool is how literal this AM/PM split used to be. The ancient Egyptians used these L-shaped shadow clocks. So in the morning, they'd face it east to catch the sun. Then, right at noon, when the shadow was gone, somebody would have to physically pick it up and turn it around to face west. That physical act of turning the clock, that's the direct ancestor of us mentally switching from AM to PM today. But wait a minute, if those first mechanical clocks had 24-hour faces, why on earth did we end up with 12? Well, it all came down to pure practical engineering. A clock tower that has to strike every single hour on a 24-hour cycle has to ring its bell 300 times a day. But a 12-hour clock, it only strikes 156 times. This was just a brilliant simplification. It meant way less wear and tear, it was cheaper to build, and probably most importantly, it was a whole lot quieter for the townspeople trying to get some sleep. But for all its practicality, this simple system has a huge flaw, a critical point of ambiguity that, believe it or not, creates some really serious problems. So here's the paradox right at the heart of the whole system. According to the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, the terms AM and PM don't technically apply to noon. And why is that? Because noon can't be before or after itself. It just is. And the exact same logical problem exists for midnight. Now, this little quirk creates some real-world confusion. If a deadline is midnight on Tuesday, does that mean the very start of Tuesday or the very end? The 24-hour clock, on the other hand, just solves this completely. 000 is the crystal clear start of the day, and 2400 is the end. There is absolutely no room for error. And look, this isn't just some philosophical debates. In fields where precision is everything, that ambiguity is downright dangerous. In medicine, mixing up AM and PM can literally be fatal. In aviation, military operations, and legal contracts, any confusion about time can have totally catastrophic consequences. This is exactly why these professions rely exclusively on the 24-hour clock. This relentless drive for perfect, unambiguous time is now pushing us into a whole new era. You see, for thousands of years, our clocks have been anchored to the sun's journey across that meridian. But that ancient relationship, it's about to be broken. To really get this shift, you have to know about something called the leap second. Think of it like this. Our atomic clocks are perfectly, unbelievably steady. But the Earth's rotation, it kind of wobbles a little bit. So to keep our clocks and the planet in sync, timekeepers have been adding a single second to the clock every now and then. It's been this invisible thread keeping our technological time tied to solar time. Well, that thread is about to be cut. In a huge decision, the world's timekeepers have all agreed to completely abandon the leap second by 2035. Why? Because for our modern digital world, that unpredictable 1-second jump can cause network crashes and all sorts of data corruption. The consequence of this is, well, it's profound. For the first time since the Egyptians were watching shadows move across the sand, our official global time will no longer be tied to the Earth's actual rotation. Our clocks are going to be allowed to just drift out of sync with the sun. What this really means is that we are officially entering an era of technological time. As a global society, we've made a choice. The stability of our computer networks is now officially more important than keeping our definition of noon perfectly aligned with the sun hanging in the sky. And that leaves us with a fascinating final question to chew on. The entire concept of AM and PM is based on the sun crossing that meridian. So, if our official clocks are now designed to intentionally ignore that celestial event, what does before or after midday even mean anymore? It seems like our ancient system of time might just be living on borrowed time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more How Meets History.